Nigeria's war on terror was just one of the many topics discussed at the AU summit in Ethiopia, where African leaders looked at the past, present, and future of the continent. VOA's Scott Stearns traveled with the U.S. Secretary of State to Addis, and Scott now joins us here in the studio. Welcome to Africa 54, Scott.
Thanks.
Now, first, just give us a little bit on what the significance of Kerry at the AU was.
Well, it was the intention of the Obama administration to send Secretary Kerry to, help participate in the commemoration of the 50th anniversary. However, because many of the African heads of state spoke longer than their required 3 minutes, Secretary Kerry's comments were cut from the program, and he ended up not speaking at all.
What a shame. And now, he did nevertheless have talks on the sidelines with the officials of Nigeria and those of South Sudan. Start first with the Nigerian president. What was the conversation all about?
He had a pull aside with President Jonathan at the AU lunch in Addis. It is the conclusion of U.S. intelligence officials that human rights abuses by Nigerian security forces are continuing in the state of emergency after the attack in Baga, which brought about the Human Rights Watch call for investigations and indeed brought President Jonathan to launch a commission of inquiry into that. That said, Secretary Kerry said that the Nigerian government acknowledges that there have been problems and deserves credit for looking into them, that he has an assurance from President Jonathan that they are taking this issue seriously, and that the investigation specifically into the allegations in Baga will be looked into, that security forces need to be held to a higher standard. He said it's not revenge that should be the motivation for security forces, but that the government needs to move on to have the assurance from the Nigerian population that they're protected in terms of rule of law.
Yeah, very quickly, we know that Nigeria is also the big boy of the region. Anything came up about ECOWAS, ECOMOG, and the role that Nigeria plays?
In general, the approach, the responsibilities that Nigerians will have to undertake in this mission in northern Mali against Ansar Dine, once the French and the Chadians complete their withdrawal. Yes, Nigeria will be the biggest force, as they always are, in West African peacekeeping, and some of the specific training that those forces will need. There has been some concern that with allegations of human rights abuses against Nigerian forces in northern Nigeria, and then you're sending out Nigerian forces into Mali, is that a problem? U.S. officials say at least that the training, those units that are being sent to Mali are specifically trained peacekeeping forces that have not been involved in the state of emergency against Boko Haram.
It was also an opportunity for Secretary Kerry to meet with the officials of both Sudan and South Sudan. What did they talk about?
A missed opportunity, I would say, largely because the Obama administration has not yet named a special envoy to replace Princeton Lyman. What better opportunity would there have been to bring this person along with Secretary Kerry in his meetings with the Sudanese foreign minister and his meetings with the president of South Sudan, Salva Kiir? That's how it is. Secretary Kerry tried to do some of that heavy lifting himself, spoke with the Sudanese about the need to resolve the situation in Abyei, especially the question about who will take part in the referendum there, the long delayed referendum, trying to come to some reconciliation about the difference between permanent residents of Abyei and the nomadic people. That was why that referendum broke down. The importance of keeping the oil flowing. As you know, the economy of South Sudan is almost 98% dependent on oil revenue, and we've heard from President Bashar that if there's indications on his part that South Sudan is supporting SPLA North in southern Kordofan and Blue Nile, that he will cut off that oil. That's not what people want to see.
Yes. And perhaps they talked about a future meeting of officials, perhaps, of the U.S. and Sudan's, the both. We don't know.
Yes, there is a delegation from the Sudanese government that is expected to come to Washington sometime that year. That is a controversial, will be a controversial delegation, I assure you, largely because of the concerns about some of the people who will be in it.
Thank you very much, Scott. Scott Stearns, State Department. Thanks again for joining us today.